For years, I shopped wrong when money was tight. I would walk into the store stressed, grab whatever looked like a deal, and come home with a cart full of things that ran out by Wednesday. I kept buying processed stuff because it felt affordable, and I kept wondering why the money disappeared so fast. It took me longer than I care to admit to figure out what the careful, practical cooks of earlier generations already knew: that a handful of simple, humble staples can carry a household further than almost anything else on a grocery shelf. I have watched a lot of folks do the same thing I used to do. They reach for the cheaper boxed meals, the discounted frozen dinners, the bargain snack packs. And those things feel like savings in the moment, but they do not stretch. They do not build meals. They do not keep your family fed when the week gets long. The groceries that actually help you when money is tight are almost never the ones being promoted at the end of the aisle. They are the quiet ones, the old ones, the ones your grandmother would have recognized without a second look. The guide I put together goes deeper on all of this than I can in one video. If you want the fuller picture, the QR code is right there on the left side of your screen right now. Open your phone's camera app and point it at that code, and the guide is yours. And that same QR code stays pinned up in the top right corner for the rest of this video, so you can come back to it anytime you like. No need to do it this second. What I want to do today is walk you through 10 specific groceries, not a vague list, but 10 things with real reasons behind each one, real meal ideas, and honest cost context. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to put in your cart the next time money is tight, and you will have a clear sense of how to turn those 10 things into a week's worth of actual food. Let us get into it. Number 1 is dried lentils. I put this first because it is the single item I wish someone had pushed me toward earlier. A 1-pound bag of dried lentils costs around $1 in most stores, sometimes less, and it cooks down into enough food to feed a family of 4 at least twice. Lentils do not need to be soaked overnight the way some dried beans do. They cook in about 20 to 30 minutes straight from the bag. They absorb whatever flavor you cook them with, so they work in soup, in a thick stew, over rice, or as a side. They are high in protein and fiber, which matters when you are stretching a budget and need meals that actually keep people full. I keep several bags in the pantry at all times. It is one of those staples that quietly does more work than almost anything else you can buy. To put a finer point on the numbers, a single 1-pound bag of green or brown lentils yields roughly 9 cups of cooked lentils once they hydrate and expand. At a standard serving size of about 3/4 of a cup, that $1 bag produces 12 servings. If you are feeding a family of 4, that is 3 full meals from a single dollar. No coupon, no sale, no loyalty card gets you closer to that kind of value anywhere else in the store. French chef Joël Robuchon famously called lentils the poor man's caviar, not because they are a compromise, but because they are genuinely that good when cooked with care. Number 2 is rolled oats, not the instant packets, the plain old-fashioned rolled oats that come in the big cylindrical container. A container that will last a week or more of breakfasts typically costs somewhere around $3 to $4. Oats are filling in a way that most breakfast foods are not. They are gentle on the stomach, and they are one of the most versatile grains in the kitchen. You can cook them on the stove in 5 minutes, bake them into simple bars, use them to stretch ground meat in patties or meatloaf, or stir them into soups to thicken the broth. The tip about stretching ground meat with oats is the one I promised you is coming up later. Hold on to that, because it is one of the most useful things in this video. Number 3 is cabbage. A whole head of green cabbage might cost you $1.50, sometimes $2, and it keeps in the refrigerator for weeks without going soft. That is not a small thing when you are watching what you spend. Cabbage can be braised slowly in a pan with a little butter and onion until it is soft and sweet. It can be shredded raw for a simple slaw. It can go into soup or stir fry, or be stuffed and baked. It is one of those vegetables that generations of careful cooks relied on, precisely because it does not give up on you halfway through the week. A typical head of green cabbage weighs between 2 and 3 pounds. Shredded, it fills a very large bowl, far more volume per dollar than nearly any other vegetable in the produce section. During the Great Depression, families across the American Midwest and throughout Eastern Europe kept households fed through entire winters on cabbage, potatoes, and dried beans. Polish bigos, German sauerkraut, Irish colcannon, Korean kimchi. Every one of those dishes exists because cabbage was the vegetable that was always there, always affordable, and always willing to become something worth eating. Number 4 is eggs. I know eggs have had some price fluctuation in recent years, but even at a higher price point, a dozen eggs remains one of the most nutritious and flexible foods you can buy per serving. One egg is a complete meal anchor: breakfast, lunch, a quick dinner. Scrambled, fried, poached, hard-boiled for the week ahead, folded into fried rice, used to bind a patty, stirred into noodles. I have had weeks where eggs were the backbone of nearly every meal, and nobody at my table felt like they were eating poorly. If you want to go deeper on how to make simple egg-based meals stretch further across a week, that is exactly the kind of detail the guide covers. Open your phone's camera app and scan the QR code up in the top right corner anytime you are ready. Number 5 is canned tomatoes. A can of whole peeled tomatoes or crushed tomatoes generally runs less than $2, and it forms the base of more meals than most people think. Tomato soup, pasta sauce, shakshuka, braised beans, rice dishes, stews. A single can turns a pot of simple ingredients into something that tastes like you spent real effort on it. I buy these by the case when they go on sale. They keep for years unopened, and I have never once regretted having too many on the shelf. The USDA puts the average shelf life of commercially canned tomatoes at 18 to 24 months, but many home cooks report perfectly good quality well beyond that window. A case of 12 28-ounce cans often runs between $12 and $16 at warehouse stores like Costco or Sam's Club. That works out to roughly $1 to $1.30 per can. San Marzano-style whole-peeled tomatoes from the store brand at Aldi or Trader Joe's regularly come in under $1.50 and perform identically to cans that cost 3 times as much in specialty grocery stores. Stock up when the price drops, and you are essentially building a pantry safety net that costs almost nothing to maintain. Number 6 is dried beans. Beyond lentils, I want to specifically call out dried pinto beans, black beans, and navy beans. All of them cost very little per pound, and all of them can form the center of a meal, rather than just the side. A pot of cooked beans with garlic and a little cumin over rice is a complete protein and a satisfying dinner. Refried beans made from scratch cost a fraction of the canned version. White beans cooked with broth and a ham bone or a bit of bacon become something your family will ask for again. The only honest note here is that most dried beans do need time, a soak overnight, and a few hours of cooking, or a pressure cooker if you have one. Plan ahead, and they are effortless. Try to rush them, and they frustrate you. Number 7 is rice. Plain long-grain white rice or brown rice, whichever your household prefers. Rice is the quiet foundation of so many meals around the world, precisely because it works. It stretches everything: beans, eggs, vegetables, whatever protein you have on hand. A 5-pound bag typically costs $3 to $5 and will last a single person several weeks, or a family of 4 a good 10 days if rice is a regular part of the menu. The way I see it, a house that has rice and beans and a few pantry staples is never truly out of food. Number 8 is onions. A 3-pound bag of yellow onions costs somewhere around $2 to $3, and few ingredients do more to make a meal taste like something real. Caramelized slowly in a pan, they become sweet and deep. Diced raw into soup, they build the base. Roasted in the oven alongside whatever vegetables you have, they pull the whole tray together. Generations of cooks built entire cuisines on onions, garlic, and fat, and that has not changed. Every soup, stew, or sautéed dish in this video starts with an onion. Buy them in the bag, not individually. Now here is the tip I mentioned back near the beginning, the one about stretching ground meat with oats. When money is tight and you are making burgers, meatballs, or meatloaf, you can replace a full third of the ground beef or ground pork with plain rolled oats. Mix them in just as they are, right from the container. The texture holds, the flavor absorbs, and your 1 pound of ground meat goes where it used to take 1.5 pounds. I have done this for years. Guests have never noticed. It is one of those old practical tricks that disappeared when meat got cheap. And it is worth bringing back. If you want more practical techniques like this for cooking on a tight budget, the guide goes into exactly this kind of territory. Scan the QR code in the top right corner with your phone's camera app and take a look when you are ready. To give that tip some financial weight, in early 2024, ground beef was averaging around $5 a pound in most American grocery stores, sometimes higher depending on the region. If you are making a 2-pound meatloaf and you swap out 2/3 of a pound of beef for rolled oats, which cost roughly 15 cents worth of oats from a standard container, you have just saved yourself about $3.30 on a single recipe while producing the same volume of food. Do that twice a week across a month, and you have kept roughly $26 in your pocket that would otherwise have gone to the meat case. Small numbers that compound into something real. Number 9 is frozen vegetables. I want to be specific here. Frozen spinach, frozen peas, and frozen mixed vegetables are all worth keeping on hand at all times. Frozen vegetables are picked and frozen at peak ripeness, which means their nutrition holds up well, often better than produce that has been sitting in a truck for several days. A 1-pound bag of frozen spinach costs very little and contains far more volume than a fresh bunch at twice the price. Add it to soup, to eggs, to pasta, to a simple grain bowl. Frozen peas can go into fried rice, stew, or a quick side in minutes. You do not need a full produce section to eat well. You need a stocked freezer shelf. Number 10 is bananas. I put this last because it always surprises people when it comes up in a conversation about tight budget staples. But bananas are genuinely one of the most valuable things in the produce section when money is short. They are usually among the cheapest fruits by the pound. They are filling. They are naturally sweet, which matters when you are cutting back on packaged snacks. They travel well and need no prep. And once they go soft and spotted, instead of throwing them out, you mash them into oatmeal, stir them into pancake batter, or make a simple banana bread with oats and an egg, and you have used every cent of what you paid for them. Nothing gets wasted. Before we close, I want to come back to something important. The myth I hear most often about budget grocery shopping is that eating well when money is tight means making sacrifices, eating boring food, eating less nutrition, eating things you do not enjoy. That is simply not true, and I think it gets repeated because there is not much money to be made in teaching people to cook lentils and eggs and cabbage beautifully. These 10 groceries, used with a little care and intention, produce meals that are genuinely nourishing and genuinely satisfying. They always have. Here is a plain action plan. This week, pick 3 things from this list that you do not already keep stocked and buy them on your next trip. Try one simple meal from each: a pot of lentil soup, a pan of braised cabbage, a rice and bean dish. Next month, build toward having most of these 10 things in your pantry or freezer at all times. When you do, you will find that a tight week looks very different. You will open the cabinet and see the beginning of several meals, not a gap you have to fill. There is no clever secret here. No subscription box, no special ingredient, no program to sign up for. Just 10 simple staples that honest, practical cooks have leaned on for as long as there have been kitchens. The best thing you can do for your food budget is exactly what your grandparents likely already knew. Keep the basics well stocked and learn to cook them well. For a fuller picture on getting more from each of these staples, the deeper practical detail that a single video can only touch on, open your phone's camera app and scan the QR code still up in the top right corner of your screen. The guide is right there waiting for you. I would love to hear from you in the comments. What is the one grocery item your family always kept on hand when times were tight? Sometimes those old answers are the best ones, and I read every comment. If this video was useful, the next one is going to be just as practical. We are talking about the 5 biggest mistakes people make when cooking dried beans, and how to fix every one of them. You will want to catch that one. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, I hope you will. We keep things plain and practical here, and there is a lot more coming. Thank you for watching.